Oh, what a joy to have you back with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, especially tonight.
Ooh, the money
Especially.
issue.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you've been reading a really interesting and intriguing book, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to, I know you're suggesting that all your friends and your clients take a look and review this. What is that about?
Well, first of all, my friend Fail McFarland told me that I had to buy this book. She said that it was exactly what I was teaching with a focus on money. And thank you so much, Fail. And I know Fail has told a lot of people in Santa Barbara, probably a lot of people everywhere, to buy this. Buy this book. I didn't write it. I had nothing to do with this book, except it is absolutely brilliant. And for the under $20 that it's going to cost you, you will, I am sure, have the same kind of results that I'm having and so many of my friends and clients are already having. Busting Loose from the Money Game is basically The Secret, but with a focus on money and abundance.
Oh,
it's brilliant. It's just brilliant.
And so what is the most important thing about this book for everyone?
The most important benefit of the book is to begin to see why people are able to generate everything they need when they need it and why others don't. That's basically the keys to the kingdom of money. And when you have the keys to the kingdom, or whatever the domain happens to be, wealth, health, intimate relationships, a wonderful home, whatever it is, when you understand the basics of that specific domain, then your entire life changes in that domain. Now, this is just about using the secret and the law of attraction with a focus on wealth and finances. But since everybody's had, some really challenging times this year with what's going on in America and then the global impact, this is a fantastic book. I really recommend it.
Fascinating. I know I'm intrigued.
Yeah, you have to get this book.
And so what are the 3 primary rules and regulations that we are taught about money and just are not true?
And I think that Fred is going to put these up on the screen. The first one has to do with, well, I'll read them then. And forgive me, guys. There we go. Thank you. I knew, Fred, we could count on you. The idea is these 3 are not true. These are the primary rules and regulations we've been taught that are not true. Money and wealth is not in limited supply. Money doesn't move from other people to you or move away from you to other people. That's a concept that's not only not true but not helpful. And the third part of it is this belief system we have that we have to work harder or smarter or any of the step-by-step concepts that we have. And the purpose of this book is to activate, and you guys know what I've been teaching about Herrmann brain dominance. The purpose of this book is to teach the upper right brain, the overview brain, with regard to money. So it's not that there's something wrong with the idea that money moves from you to me or me to you, or that I have to work harder or you have to work harder and smarter. It's not untrue. That's the lower left brain thinking about step by step and action. It's just that's not a necessary component. Everybody who gets wealthy and is wealthy doesn't go about it that way. So that lower left brain, it's not that it's wrong, it's just a very limited perspective. And the upper left brain idea of quantifying money, it's not wrong, it's just that's not what this book is about. You can make money and have money by doing it the old-fashioned way in the old paradigm, but that's not what this book is about. Okay? And you can have wealth by not using your left brain if you activate your upper right brain, your spiritual brain, your visionary brain. And if you activate it with enough power and intensity and faith, miracles happen. And the biggest miracle is right behind me on the green screen, which is the Oneness Temple. You know, the Oneness University, about 15 years ago, they had a schoolhouse with a dirt floor. And the desks they turned them upside down at night, and the students used them as beds. That's about 15 years ago. Now, this Oneness Temple, which really exists, and it's all marble clad, and it's the size of about 6 or 7 football fields, and it's the largest pillarless hall in South Asia, exists. Where did it come from? It came from vision. Because these guys didn't work hard, and they certainly didn't have a stockbroker on the job, which is not to say working hard is bad or that a stockbroker is bad. This is simply an opportunity to understand money and wealth from a different part of your brain. Okay?
Thank you. Cool. Oh,
And
what a
you know,
miracle.
all of it is better. Use your whole brain and it will come faster.
There you go. Oh, absolutely. Well, so then what are some additional other common beliefs about money that are just kind of tripping us up?
Yeah. Well, I love a couple of these. Money is the root of all evil. How many people have had this? You know, my second husband used to try to fight with me about this one. Because he would say that it was, you know, in the Bible and that's what his parents taught him. And of course he was, you know, struggling and suffering. Money is dirty. Some people believe that. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, obviously people who have skills and tools are going to benefit, and people without skills and tools won't benefit most of the time. Number 4, there's never enough money. Number 5, you control money, or even the opposite, that money controls you. All of these are absurd. More money is always better. Well, that may be a limiting belief, but you know, money does give us options and choices. There's nothing wrong with that. Number 7, money doesn't grow on trees. Number 8, some people have money skills and some people don't. Well, some people have been trained to have money skills. Some people haven't been trained to have money skills. And if you're in that category that hasn't been trained, you can go get some training. So it's not a limiting concept. Number 9, you can't win and also be spiritual. Well, of course, we've all begun to understand that that's no longer valuable. There's just no point. And I think that's the message of the Oneness Temple behind me, that you can have it all, you can be it all. And maybe you're not going to get a Oneness Temple in 15 years, but you can certainly move from a dirt-floored hut to something a little bit more comfortable. The next one is net worth is the measure of wealth. Well, net worth is the measure of your financial wealth. So no problem there, but it's not the whole picture. It's not who you are. And finally, you must save for a rainy day. That is the most interesting one right now, since so many people have had a lot of money, as I did, and particularly nowadays, people who never understood how I could have gone from having an enormous amount of money and then a hideous marriage and a terrifying divorce and then not having that money, they didn't understand it. And when this happened 10 years ago, every single person that was wealthy who heard this from me, from my own lips, assumed that I was a moron. Now, maybe I was, but they didn't see any alternative. They did not see any alternative. And they didn't understand that it was possible. Now, since that time, I know a number of people with tremendous wealth who don't have tremendous wealth anymore, again, because of situations or circumstances that they didn't understand, they didn't know that they were in over their head or whatever. And I'm not saying that if I knew then what I know now, the same thing would have happened. Of course not. But we never know what's coming unless we're really, really running our own life. And that takes a lot of skills and tools, and that's why we're here tonight.
Yes, thank you for actually going through, gathering the information and knowledge for a lot of these tools and skills and
You're so
sharing
welcome.
them with us.
And so we're all going to have our millions back or new millions in whatever period of time we set.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, what's wrong with all the thinking, since you've really told me that the purpose of this book is to overturn our misunderstanding about money so that we can really enjoy the wealth?
Well, you know, if you love your life and you love the wealth part of your life, because that's what we're focusing on tonight, then fine, no problem. But how many people do you know, even if you're somebody whose wealth is handled, how many people do you know who aren't having some complaint or some problem in some other area? And it all boils down to focusing on what you want, making sure that your energy and your vibe is high enough, making sure that you have enough faith in your ability to receive whatever it is you say you want to receive, and then boom, having it appear. So how many people are really living their lives that way? Very, very few. You know. But if fail, thank goodness, you're there.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Very
We're
few
ready for
people
that
are
change.
living the life that we now know we can all be living.
This is so encouraging.
Yeah, there's nothing that separates any of you listening from wealth at all, except your limiting beliefs about it and your limiting behaviors about it. Other than that, nothing is separating you from great wealth. But I mean, it's a trick question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because in order for people to be able to think it's possible to be healthy, they'd have to have a high enough vibrational state to be healthy. Or they have to believe it's possible to be healthy and then be in the presence of Howard Wills or someone like Howard Wills sufficiently so that their whole energy changes and the result is health. And do it enough so that it's consistent. And the same thing is true with money.
There you go. Oh boy, we got to get into that mind frame. But what comes up too is why can't we win and have the money we want unless we shift our understanding?
I just think it's like a magnetic thing. You know, it's a magnetic thing. You know, how come most people don't have the opportunity of dating movie stars? How come? Most people want to. I have. No big deal. I set a particular goal to have an opportunity to date a couple of movie stars, and I did. Why? Because it was something that seemed doable to me. It didn't seem impossible to me. And I put myself in a place where I would meet them. And then I put myself in the same place where I would meet them again and again, and then there you are. Now, that doesn't mean that dating a movie star is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something that a lot of people would like to do and don't. So it's just a question of seeing it as a possibility, seeing what it is you have to do in order to make it happen, be consistent about it. So you have to look a particular way, and you have to act a particular way, and you have to be in a particular locality. And you have to do it consistently, and then the high probability is, boom. But that's the same thing with $1 million. It's no different. Same thing with having perfect health. No different.
Anything that we want to consciously be there. And well, so this leads me to the next question, and that's what does quantum physics, the secret, the law of attraction, have to do with creating wealth and money in our lives?
It's, you know, it's all the vibe. You know, it's all the vibe. So if you don't believe that this is something that can happen to you, then that's the problem. The problem's not money, and it's not health, and it's not love. The problem is you don't believe this is something that can happen for you. And it's about your consciousness creating everything. And you and your expanded self are consciousness. There's nothing else that is consciousness. It's your higher self, your God self, your Christ consciousness, whatever term you want to use. And every detail of your life is the result of this consciousness. At every moment, you're creating yourself, you're creating the world, you're creating your universe. And I know for a fact that Hindus have been saying this for about 7,000 years of recorded history. And, you know, some of us only started listening a couple of decades ago, but it was all there, it was all available.
The knowledge is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That you're creating your own reality every single second, and that the rest is all Maya, which is the Hindu term for, you know, imaginary fantasy, not real at all. Just imaginary. The rest is just imaginary. So, you know, you may be terrified, but you keep focusing on what you want. You may be enraged, but keep focusing on what you want. You may be heartbroken, grief-stricken. Keep focusing on what you want. I do, and it works every time.
Oh, I love that. So to be in control of your thinking and manage your mind.
Your thinking, listening, speaking, and acting, I might add. Yeah, sure. So it doesn't matter why you tell yourself this is hopeless or impossible, and it doesn't matter why you tell yourself they won't let you or they're doing it to you or any of that. It doesn't matter. If you know me, you know I'm certainly not going to encourage you to engage in those internal conversations. The bottom line is, what do you want? What's your goal? Be specific. Do everything humanly and inhumanly possible to move towards it. And just throw all of the stories about why you can't accomplish it out the window. And amazingly, it may take you months, it may even take you years, but amazingly, stuff starts to move. It all starts to shift. It's like those iron filings that we saw in school when we were kids.
Oh, I love that. Yes, the proof will be in the pudding, so to speak.
It's etch-a-sketch. It's all, life is just an etch-a-sketch.
Oh my gosh. So I know it's true that there are people that can really truly create what they want. And I know there are people that they cannot. So they're in, how would you respond to that?
I would say there are people who do create what they want, and there are people who don't create what they want. I would not say that they can and can't. That's not really appropriate or fair. And now, people who do create what they want don't start by trying to create a marble temple that's the size of 6 or 7 football fields. Even if that's what they wanted, you know? But it's amazing how you focus on something and you keep focusing on something and miracles appear. It's just amazing. I have had so many examples in my own life. Forget about my clients and friends. I mean, so many miraculous examples. Now, you know, maybe none of the things that I would say appeal to you, and so maybe you don't think they're miraculous. But, you know, it's pretty miraculous to me that I was looking for a fabulous place to live when I was going to come to California, 1991, and I knew that I needed to move to Beverly Hills because I was from New York and my driving was terrible. And so, I don't know, about a month before I had to move to Beverly Hills, my friend's brother decided he was going to leave Beverly Hills. And I said, "Where are you living?" And he said, "In Beverly Hills, about a half a block from Saks Fifth Avenue." I said, "I'll take it." He said, "Oh, no, this is not for you." I said, "Why not?" "Oh, this is much too big for you." I said, "How big is it?" Well, it was a townhouse. It was a duplex. It had 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. It had a big garden in the back that was shared with the other, like 4 townhouses. And it had a little terrace on the back and a little terrace on the front. Well, it was big. I mean, it was fabulous. So I figured it was, you know, this is 1991. I figured it was thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think at the time he was paying $1,300 a month. And I had a big job. I said, like I said, "I'll take it." He said, no, it's much too big for you. You can't live there alone." I said, "Do you live with someone?" "Oh, no, I don't." He said, "I live here alone." It was like so crazy. So finally, I was able to convince him, you know, but the bottom line was I found the perfect place for me. This was ideal. It was everything that I needed. I could walk everywhere. I could find my way to my job. It was beautiful. But he didn't see it as perfect. But that's okay because it was my dream and my vision. For me, it was perfect.
Yes.
Now, the woman who was my next door neighbor was a friend of the Jackson family, Michael Jackson and his brothers, and one of them was demolishing his house in Beverly Hills somewhere, and he was going to start from scratch. And she said, "Hey, if you want Jermaine Jackson's house, he'll let you have the house, or anybody who wanted the house. All you have to do is move it off the property by such and such a date." Now, a lot of people who had lived in California or owned land or knew about buying land, for them this would have been a dream. Jermaine Jackson's house, free, all you have to do is have a piece of land to plop it on, right? And enough money to move it, and you know, they break houses up and move them. But see, this wasn't my dream. So I said to her, you know, what am I going to do with the house? What do you, like, who cares? But it's all about, you know, the dream. So that wasn't my dream. I didn't want it, but this house in Beverly Hills was perfect for me.
It worked out, and
Yes, it
I'm
was
imagining
ideal.
somebody else scored on a dream with that
I would
house
think.
as well.
I would think. It's all a matter of what are our dreams. So we put out the vibes, and something comes along, we grab it, and if it's not for us, we don't. If we're smart, we don't grab it. We keep looking for what we do want.
And we keep focused on that. Absolutely.
That's the trick.
That is the trick.
Staying focused on what you really want and being able to believe that it can be yours. That's the big thing. A lot of people are pretty clear about what they want, but they just don't have the ability to believe in it. Now I remember in the 80s, I had a boyfriend who was struggling. And I was so tired of listening to the struggle. He was a chiropractor. And he thought there was nothing better than a Rolls Royce. And I had to listen to this night after night. He even bought his mother a Rolls Royce grilled as a coffee table base. I mean, he was obsessed. So when I broke up with him, I said to myself, well, I might as well have a boyfriend with a Rolls Royce. I mean, I don't know. If it's so great, why not, right? So, but one thing I want is I want a boyfriend who's not futzing around about his desperation over money. I can't take another minute of it. And I'm not going to do what I went through with the last boyfriend who was renovating a house and I couldn't breathe because of the plaster dust. So this new boyfriend, his house is in perfect shape. I don't have to do anything. No renovation required. And he's got a Rolls Royce. And I was introduced to a guy, and he showed me around his house, and he had just finished all of the renovation. It was completely renovated. And then he opened his garage, and there was a brand new Rolls Royce, a brand new Ferrari, and a very nice Jeep. And the garage, you could eat off the floor. And I said to myself, sold. Because it's just a game.
Yes.
It's just a game. The man was fascinating and enchanting and charming and all this other stuff. But I'm just using this as an example of setting your mind based on what you're looking for, and all the other stuff comes along. In fact, I had wanted to meet that guy. At that point, I had wanted to meet that guy like 13 years earlier, and it just hadn't been feasible. So when the name popped up, I said, oh, so I wasn't interested in this car. And in fact, for me, this show is a little tricky for me because I've never been very interested in stuff. I've had a lot of stuff, and it never really interested me. But what interests me about it is being able to focus on what you want and creating that in your life. That's a peaceful life.
Oh, I love that. And what a marvelous example, once again. Sometimes it seems like, if I reflect on my life, that perhaps even kind of unconsciously I have, like a lot of other people, created things.
Sure,
and
of course.
Fortunately, a lot of them have been miracles that have worked out for me.
Of course.
But to be more conscious now in the life I have left is where I want to be joyfully conscious and functional. That's why I attend your workshops and keep you around.
Functional!
Yes, functional. At least. Well, I can see we're ready for this clip. Remember this?
Yes, I do. And just quickly, we're so thrilled. It's Linda and Rick Dahlwig again. And I'm speaking with them, and they're talking about what happened before they had some of these tools and skills. They're talking about a long trip that they made. And this is before they had these tools and skills. So I think you'll really enjoy this. You'll see the difference. So, are we ready for Grenada?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so this is in the past. This is a brief overview by, I guess, Rick, of what happened in the past. And then we're going to wrap that section of today up with a role play of how Rick and or Linda could handle it if Grenada were an issue that came up now. So we want you to see how you can avoid some of these challenges when you have more skills. So tell us quickly what happened.
So what struck me when you were talking is Linda and I are very different people on a lot of things, and we think differently, and we have different values, and it wasn't that we found somebody that fit. And it took us 2 years to get married. It took us 2 years to work to the point where, because she really didn't see the necessity for a relationship, and that's all I wanted. But we were in love, and we wanted to get past that initial burst of love that comes romance. And so we finally got married on Valentine's Day in Jamaica. We eloped and got married and came back. And after being back a few months, it became apparent to me that either we take control of our lives or we let everyone and everything else take control of them. And it has to do with family, it has to do with owning a house, it has to do with working, and it just wasn't what I thought it would be.
So either you were going to run your lives, or your lives were going to run you, and you made the best choice.
And we talked about it,
Yeah.
and we decided to rent our house out for a year and leave the country.
Wow.
And we sat down and you teach the goal
Reaching skills.
reaching skills.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what we were doing at the time, but what I experienced in the first few years with Linda is with our synergy, if we're focused, we can create anything. And so we sat down and like in May or so and said we're going to rent our house out by September 1st and we're going to go.
Wow.
And of course, all the obstacles came shooting up.
Yes.
But
And instantly.
And I really thought, yeah, this sounds terrific and wonderful and great adventure and fun, but I really didn't put a time frame on it. It happened a lot sooner than I was prepared for,
Yeah.
because I was getting pretty settled into our lives and have this happen.
And yeah, so I took responsibility. I investigated. I set it up. And bottom line is, on September 1st, we had our house leased for a year, and we had decided to go to Grenada, which is the farthest away Caribbean island that you can get. There's no Americans. There's 100,000 Africans descendants there, but they speak English, and it's a beautiful rainforest island.
Oh.
And
Beautiful.
we thought we'd go there, and we took carry-ons. We thought we'll stay there until we go somewhere else.
Wow. Carry-ons. That's
Carry-ons.
already an incredible concept.
Yeah, for
But-
me it was.
But I knew I was in trouble. The night before we left, we were at her sister's with her daughter there, and they said, "Where are you going?" And Linda said, "I don't know." It was like,
It just struck me.
Oops.
this, she didn't want to participate because I don't think she really wanted it to be real, but it did, and we arrived in Grenada, and bottom line is we ended up spending the entire time there in the same place we spent the first night on a 2.5-mile beach. But my dream was that we're going to be away from everybody, and now we can go out on the frontiers and have fun.
Yes.
No.
Not so soon.
Not so soon. The frontiers, mountain men, it's hard work.
Oh,
It's the work of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But I got there and what?
I was totally into my lower right brain. Totally.
very emotional.
Very emotional. My daughter had just returned from, what was it, Prague?
Or Nova Scotia.
Oh, somewhere. And I was taking off, and I felt very unsettled about that, because where was she going to go? And it just happened so fast in my mind once I realized it.
And how long was it actually? From the day that you think you had an agreement to do this, and September 1st, about how long transpired? couple of months, 6
No, no,
months,
it was
3
about
months?
4 or 5 months.
No, it wasn't.
May,
Here's our first argument.
Yeah, there we go.
Disagree.
No, I asked what his experience was at the
okay,
time, then I'll
okay.
ask you in a minute.
Yeah,
So you thought it was 4 or 5
it
months?
took us 4 or 5 months to get everything in line.
Okay, and how long did it seem to you?
About 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, got it. So that's perfect.
Oh, yeah?
So there's a different experience. There was a different experience of time, and there was at the time a different goal. You had different goals. Okay, perfect. Please continue.
Yeah, looking back on it now, she was in her lower right brain. She wanted connection.
Yeah.
She really was upset, to put it in her words. I ripped her away from her family.
Ripped her away from her family. Certainly, this terminology we would not be hearing now.
No,
right?
not at all.
How would you say that now? It didn't meet your need for what?
For connection.
You bet.
And for love and
Yeah. Companionship with
Yeah.
your daughter. See,
Right.
perfect. And see how different that is. The old language of being ripped away, from your family, which is a traumatic, dramatic judgment and criticism, versus, feeling sad or lonely. Your need for connection isn't met. Your need for companionship isn't met. Your need to be really close and in the the company of your family. Different. Really different. Totally different energy.
right.
Okay, please.
And she was in her lower left brain, needing safety and security. And here we were in this third world emerging country where she couldn't even drive a car.
Wow.
And
Totally dependent on each other.
And why could Rick drive a car and you couldn't? I'm just curious.
Well,
He had an international license and you didn't?
no, they have to drive on the left-hand side.
And you were able
And-
to figure that
yeah,
out and
and-
take your life in
And
your
it was
hands.
pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it's very scary. Okay, I was just wondering because I know
Right.
you both
Right.
drive.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody had to drive and Rick opted for that scary job. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
and I got to be a passenger. And that was not my nature. That wasn't my nature at all.
Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so what part of this whole experience would you like to do as a role play today? And I think you wanted to do that with me. Did I understand you and I were doing this one? Was that your preference? And I'm going to play you and you're going to play Linda. Is that what I understood you were thinking that would be most helpful? Did I understand? Maybe I didn't.
However you want to do it.
Okay. So, well, certainly what we'd like to show everybody is an opportunity to really have Linda, whoever's playing Linda, either of you, really be able to get in touch with any thoughts of conflict, torn, because that's how you felt. You felt torn.
Yeah.
So when some of our needs are met by a decision we're making, and some of our needs are not met by a decision we're making, the term for that is torn. So you've, I'm sure, met people who are thinking of marrying Bob or thinking of marrying Linda, but one minute they're excited about it, and the next minute they're breaking up, and the next minute they're excited about getting married, and the next minute they're breaking up. And when I use the terms Bob and Linda, I don't mean this Linda. I always have this generic imaginary couple. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do a role play, which is one of the basics of the Heartspace system. We're going to have an opportunity for one member of the couple to really see what it feels like to be their partner. And then I'm going to play the other member of the family. And the purpose of this is to really demonstrate as much of the 6-part conversation as is useful, and also to let one of them get a really good sense of what it feels like to be the other. Because true compassion requires that we literally put ourselves in that other person's brain. And role plays are about the most valuable way to do that. So,
In the other person's brain. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, that is true empathy.
and then really experiencing life from that perspective. Now, as you're thinking on tonight's show, when you think about creating the goals that are important to you, if you're in a couple, if you're in a family, it's really valuable to consider whether those goals are appropriate for your whole family or whether your goals are in conflict or contrast to your family. And so you want to be sure to motivate and inspire everyone else who is involved so that their needs are met and your needs are met, and then it's peace. because it's amazing. Even if you think that they're going to love being wealthy, that isn't absolutely true. A lot of people don't. Or even if you think that they're going to love you creating a different lifestyle, they may not. So we always have to think about that. If you're alone, if you're a single person, great. But if you're in a family, if you're in a couple, then in order to have peace, and peace is essential to create more wealth, because you have to have that vibrational state to generate what you want, got to make sure that you're checking in with the people that are closest to you. Make sense?
Yes, it sure does. And hopefully with a playful, fun spirit.
Yeah, because as we said, that's the most important part to creation. Having that joy and that just, why not? That why not attitude.
Yes.
Let's go for it.
God, I love it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really excited about having you really go through and give us some highlights, some key points from that book, Busting Moose.
Okay. We're going to see them on the screen in just a minute. And the key points, one of them, is that you equal your expanded consciousness. That's it. You are your expanded self. And that is consciousness. And that consciousness directs everything. Not this egoic mind, the little self with the small s, the one that's always worrying and fidgeting and all that. Not that. But your true self, that, again, Christ consciousness, that expanded self. And even more fascinating is that you are just watching what you create, but at the same time, you're jumping in and you're in that. So you're writing the script, you're directing the script, and you're the star of the movie too. And this is a very, very tricky dance for a lot of people in the beginning. To understand that there are these three different levels, that you're creating it all in your mind the way you want it to be, then you're organizing and orchestrating and directing it, and then it's you showing up and making all of those things, all the plays. So always keeping that in mind is very, very tricky, because it's three different consciousnesses, if you will, one stacked on top of the other. Let's see the next one. Nothing you experience is real. Again, that's the Hindu concept of Maya. So just play with that. You don't believe it yet, maybe, but play with that. A good way to play with that is decide that there's something that you want to really pay attention to, whatever it may be. When you start to really pay attention to something, it just shows up all around you. Whatever it is. You know, doesn't matter. People with your name, people with your boyfriend or husband's name, people with your son or daughter's name. Something really simple. As soon as you focus your attention on that, that's what you're going to see every place you look, because we know that the brain is taking in all this data, but it's not processing more than a very small percentage of it. Fred, could I just see the last of those? I have a feeling I didn't. Thank you. Your expanded self designs the patterns in your life, and your life mission guides your life and your creations within this life. So that's what we're saying. Once you decide what's important to you, you know, whether it's oceanfront property in Santa Barbara, and all you want is to live in oceanfront property in Santa Barbara, and you're going to find over a period of months you meet 6 or 7 people and that's where they live, but that's not your house yet. Then you're going to notice that, you know, 3 or 4 of them are looking for a life partner. Well, that's still not yours, but you're getting closer and closer and closer until ultimately something changes in your life and boom, you find yourself right there.
Oh, I love it. That focus, that attention, and magic starts happening. Well, not magic, but that manifestation
That's right.
comes in and comes
Exactly.
through.
And don't assume that what you want is what everybody else wants, because it isn't. You know, I have a former client who lived on Padaro Lane on the ocean, and it wasn't thrilling for her. And actually, she motivated her husband to move to a different house. She was thrilled. So don't make the assumption that everybody wants to be living in the White House, for example, or anything that it looks like a complicated and difficult chore. For the person who has the dream, it's not a complicated and difficult chore at all. It's fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To stay in tune with that dream and to keep moving towards it. Oh, that would get me up and going every morning. Keep going for it. Yeah.
And you will be. We expect you to.
Well, now, what is the difference between using the science of this and the enlightenment type of person to create this?
So depending on which part of your brain is most active, you're going to either see what I've said tonight and what Gigi said tonight as fascinating and thrilling and exciting, which is the way Gigi and I respond because we're very right-brained. Or you may be tempted to think that it's a lot of nonsense. And in that case, then you prefer working for the money and working hard for the money and learning all about Wall Street and learning all about gold and there's nothing wrong with that. People have made enormous amounts of wealth by being very left-brained. The good news about tonight's show is that that's not the only way to make a lot of money. There are a lot of people that bring forth and generate and attract, and all those right brain words, an enormous amount of money, and that's what we're talking about.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's very clear. And now what about for the person whose husband or wife, let's say, or the children, they are not aware of this and they do not want, or somehow they are not willing to cooperate? Then what kind of challenge comes up?
Don't tell them what you learned tonight. Don't talk about it. Now, the bottom line is, why do people like that come into your life, though? And so some people come into your life in order to really clarify what you believe. To be a mirror, but not a mirror that's similar, but a different mirror. And then, of course, other people do it because they have knowledge and they have experience that's different from yours, so they're developing another part of your brain just by having these conversations, if you can do it peacefully. And the third is, if you really find that companionship irksome, then it's a great opportunity to move forward, get away. Don't deal with that anymore. So the process of rubbing against someone who's got a different way of seeing things can be great for you or great for them or drive both of you nuts. But if it drives both of you nuts, then it can drive you both nuts, but into other more satisfying relationships.
Oh, I like that. So it does have a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we get out the best of what's going on there that we need.
Oh, yeah. I was in City Yoga, which is a spiritual path for decades, and Swami Muktananda, who's a very, very famous enlightened master in India, used to be asked, how can you have millions and millions of devotees? How can you possibly bring enlightenment to millions and millions of devotees? And he said, it's easy. They're all in families. And they rub up against each other and they get enlightened that way. So his attitude was, just by the aggravation that they feel, something happens. It's the process of erosion. So that can work for people. I don't enjoy it and I'm not willing to do it anymore, but that's one path.
Oh boy, well that sounds like a very uncomfortable
I
one.
know. It's like, ugh. So, if you have a family member who's very left-brain and they're enjoying their very left-brained life, that's great. Some people like to go to doctors and have a lot of medical tests and have a lot of surgery. And I know a lot of people that love it and they enjoy it. And then I know a lot of other people who like to visit people like Howard Wills and others who have miraculous healing reputations and see if it's possible to get healed that way, which is what I do. I've been the other route and I don't enjoy it much. So I like to just avoid all that. But they both work. They both work.
Well, I enjoy what you enjoy.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right. No blood tests, if possible. No surgery unless it's to become prettier.
So now, how does a person create what they really want in their life? How do they even begin to start create?
Well, I love what Esther Hicks says. Esther Hicks always says that you have a goal, and then you have your life, and are you enjoying the difference? right?
Yes.
So it's pretty easy to know what you want by looking at what you hate about your life, right?
There you go.
So it's like, if your clothes don't fit, it's pretty easy to tell yourself, it's time to lose 5 pounds.
That's right.
If you don't, then it's not as easy to say, good time to lose 10 pounds. And it sure becomes a problem when you're saying to yourself, gee, I guess I should have been on the path of losing 100 pounds. Now we got a big problem, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I have 3 friends who've had lap band surgery, and they're all very, very thin, and I was amazed. I had no idea that they were very thin. Because of that, I thought they were just really disciplined. I didn't really get the picture. But that's how we change our lives, by not liking the way things are. Really not liking, a lot.
Yes, and wanting to make that difference.
Yeah. So I was like, what am I going to do now?
And staying committed, focused.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Basically, anything that you hate about your life, with very few exceptions, you can turn around. You can't, as far as I know, really get taller with great satisfaction, though there are some surgeries, the results are not good. And you can't actually get younger yet. I mean, you can look completely different, but you can't actually get younger. But more than that, that almost everything else you can change.
Well, what an abundance of changes we're in for.
Yeah,
I mean,
and yet it's
yeah.
amazing how many people still, in 2009, waste all of their waking hours complaining to themselves and anyone else who will listen, when complaining is the opposite strategy to change the results. It's the opposite. The more I complain, if I said, I hate this cup, I hate this cup, I hate this cup, I hate this cup, I could have created a new one by the time I finished with all that, let alone run to a store and bought something different, or called a friend and asked a friend to bring one over. I mean, anything that you waste your time complaining about, the energy is the opposite of what you need in order to move forward.
Thank you for that. Boy, we need to be aware of not focusing on what we do not want.